The sky over Pomona 4 looked almost innocent when the invasion sirens began to wail. Pearl gray clouds stacking calmly against the eastern horizon, the late-season sun flashing silver on terraced lakes and freshly planted grain. I had spent the morning chasing moisture readings through the foothill sensors and congratulating myself on how close our fledgling colony was to stable hydrological equilibrium. 11 years of careful terraforming had finally coaxed the planet into breathing with an Earth-like cadence. Then the orbitals pinged with unauthorized mass signatures, drop ships, slate shapes plunging out of nothingness, tearing violet contrails through the stratosphere. The first feed arrived from AOAM-7, showing 30, maybe 40 distinct reentry plumes fanning toward the plains we called Greenbelt Delta. Those same plains held our seed vaults, our largest settlement dome, and 500,000 human pioneers. We had no planetary defense grid. Pomona 4 was classified agricultural development, early growth, not strategic asset. So the only hardware circling the planet belonged to us terraformers, a ring of 14 weather control satellites, each designed to shepherd rainfall, scatter hurricanes, and nurse a fragile biosphere. "Kay, you seeing this?" Dr. Severin's voice cracked through my wristcom, ragged and incredulous. He was up in control, an armored box perched on the highest ridge. "Tracking," I answered, pulling a local sky map onto my augmented goggles. The invader trajectories converged on 3 coordinates: east of Haven Dome, south of Junction Ridge, and the broad valley we simply called Delta Drop. "Military help is 7 days away," Severin said, quieter now. "Maybe more. They're routing a task force, but..." I knew the rest. 7 days might as well be 7 years. By sunset, the enemy would have beachheads, shield generators, field artillery, all the unpronounceable tools of an interstellar predator species that, until 12 minutes ago, we hadn't even known existed. I looked up at the blameless clouds. "Get me full authority on the satellites." Severin hesitated. "You mean strategic override? That's not weather management, Kay. It's the only mass we can throw at them." The line went silent. A gull-like flyer banked over the lake, oblivious to geopolitics. Finally, Severin sighed. "I'll unlock the board, but we need council approval to militarize the array." "The council's still evacuating nursery domes," I reminded him. "We do this now or not at all." A soft chime confirmed my permissions. 14 icons turned red on my forearm display. AOAM-1 through AOAM-14, the entire amplitudinal orbital atmospheric modulation network. Each carried gravitic pulse emitters, chilled water injectors, and aerosol seed canisters, tools meant to coax rainfall onto wheat fields. But with enough coordinated force, they could do something else. 4 years ago, during stress modeling, I'd run a speculative scenario. Extreme cryogenic precipitation event. Essentially, orbital injectors dump supercooled water vapor into a nascent cumulonimbus system, then flash freeze the upper levels. The result? Hailstones as big as hovercraft tires. The simulation said we could create a temporary micro-ice age over a 500-kilometer footprint, hailing so dense it looked solid on LIDAR. We'd rejected the idea as an extinction-level mistake. Today, it was our only shot. I sprinted toward an autonomous rover, boots slapping the mud. Overhead, the first alien dropships tore sonic booms across the stratosphere. Control smelled of burnt coffee and ozone. Displays feathered every wall, showing planetary weather grids, agricultural inventories, and, most vivid, real-time footage of the invader craft. They resembled armored cephalopods, bulbous, ribbed, and studded with thruster vents. Landing legs unfolded like scythes as they punched toward the plains. Colonial Governor Atieno appeared on our holopad, cheeks streaked with perspiration. "Severin K, status," I answered. "We can inundate their drop zones with kilometer-wide hail supercells. We'll need total atmospheric authority, emergency relief corridors for colonists, and agricultural casualty acceptance." "In English," Atieno barked. "We're going to break the sky over them," I said. "Anything on those plains, ships, troops, seedlings, will be shredded. That includes our sorghum and soy acres. But it buys time." Atieno closed her eyes, calculating. Behind her, Evacuees filed into mag trams bound for the cavern shelters. How long to deploy? 2 hours for satellite phasing. Another 40 minutes to build storm cores. ETA precipitation, maybe 3 hours. Do it, she said, voice rough, and pray the caverns hold. We split tasks. Severin orchestrated orbital fuel vectors. I commandeered the lower atmosphere seeding drones. Junior techs rerouted every emergency beacon, warning colonists to shelter in mines, tube farms, anywhere with a roof thick enough to stop bus-sized hail. The first step was to herd existing moisture. Fortunately, Pomona 4's late spring cycle had brewed a moisture plume off the equatorial sea. AOM 3 and 5 fired their gravitic embossers, nudging vapor northward like shepherds guiding sheep. Next came nucleation. AOAM 7 through 11 dumped silver iodide crystals into the plume. The crystals incentivized ice formation, catalyzing infant hail embryos. Meanwhile, AOAM 12 and 14 injected 80 million cubic meters of hypercooled water vapor, flash condensing the cloud towers to stratospheric heights. From the ground, the sky darkened into a plum-black shelf cloud that dwarfed the horizon. Lightning stitched sideways through the mass, dazzling in midday gloom. Above, the invader pods kept descending, oblivious to the metastasizing monster beneath them. I fed drop zone coordinates into the model. We needed the storm's updraft engine positioned precisely so its heaviest downdraft would rake the landing sites. Too far south and we'd smash Abandoned Prairie. Too far north and we'd hammer Haven Dome. AOAM 8, 10-second pulse starboard, I ordered. AOM 6, rotate orbit 90 degrees, full amplitude. I want updraft shear here. I highlighted a yellow ellipse on the master screen. The array obeyed. In orbit, 14 glittering needles flared thrusters, their microgravity plumes faint as candle smoke compared to the roiling titan they were midwifing. We watched LIDAR cross-sections bloom in false color, reds and whites signifying ice cores 3 kilometers thick. Hail embryos were maturing into city-killer stones, some projections reading 15, 20 meters across before fragmentation. No human structure could endure that. Hopefully, neither could alien armor. 90 minutes later, Governor Atieno patched in again from the cavern complex. Dropships starting surface operations, she reported. They're deploying tripital walkers. Energy discharges recorded. Any casualties, I asked? Some Agra crew caught on the open plain. Med drones in flight. But walkers are torching anything that moves. My stomach tightened with useless fury. We'll give them a distraction. 30 minutes to hailfall. Outside controls reinforced windows, bruised clouds churned like boiling ink. The air had gone preternaturally still. I spared a thought for the ecosystems we had so gently fostered. The pollinating sky ribbons, the burrowing fur lorises now scurrying for cover. Terraforming was supposed to create life, not extinguish it. Severin must have felt my silence. He murmured, "You good?" "We lose 20 years of crop baselines today," I whispered. "But better that than 20,000 colonists." He squeezed my shoulder. "They won't name schools after our soy fields, Kay. They'll name them after the people we save." We hit execute. Above the storm, AOAM 4 triggered its pulse in the 0-Kelvin storage tanks, releasing an ocean of liquid nitrogen into the anvil crest. The chemical reaction collapsed vapor into solid ice so fast the upper cloud deck looked as if it had inhaled itself. Instantly, the downdraft engine ramped from 110 knots to 250. The mesocyclone's gravitational center shifted downward, and a white column, no, a cone, wide as a mountain, detached from the belly of the cloud. Radar painted it as a waterfall of steel. Cameras struggled for focus, ragged boulders of ice spinning, colliding, shattering into supersonic shards that screamed as they fell. We'd done it. A kilometer-wide hail shaft accelerating at terminal velocity straight toward Delta Drop. Lieutenant Mara Voigt, commanding the colony's token security detachment, relayed ground visuals through her helmet feed. The invader walkers were skeletal, 6 meters tall, jointed like mantises. Their weapons spat ultraviolet bursts that sliced irrigation pipes and combustion tractors in half. Voigt's platoon, hunkered behind a combine harvester, could only harass with coil rifles. Latir Voigt, I broke in. Impact in 2 minutes. Pull your people into hardened shelters immediately. She glanced skyward, uncertainty warring with duty. Then thunder cracked overhead, violent as artillery. The first hailstone, roughly the size of a cargo shuttle, punched the ground 200 meters from her position, exploding in a geyser of ice splinters. Dust billowed like nuclear smoke. Voight cursed and waved her troopers toward an irrigation culvert. They dove just as the sky tore open. What followed defied language. Hail the size of passenger buses thundered down in curtains, each impact a seismic event. Layers of soil vaporized under kinetic stress. Alien walkers vanished. First their sensor masks sheared off, then their torsos imploded. Dropships, only half unloaded, tried to throttle engines but were hammered flat. Hull plating peeled like fruit skin. Severin and I stared at the seismograph, peaks spiking off scale, magnitude 7 tremors rippling across the plains. Our improvised meteor strike turned farmland into a churning slurry of mud and shattered ice. In the cavern shelters, colonists felt the earth tremble. Children screamed, parents held them, listening to the distant fury battering the world they'd hoped to tame. 23 minutes later, the hail stopped as abruptly as it began. The storm collapsed upon itself, having spent its wrath. Only a coarse sleet remained, hissing against battered rooftops. Voight's feed reappeared. Her helmet cam showed a landscape unrecognizable, a whiteness littered with twisted metal and pulverized earth. Steam rose where alien plasma cores ruptured, leaving neon slush. Nothing moved except trickles of half-frozen runoff. "Count survivor," I told her. She walked the field with 3 other troopers, coil rifles raised. They found no living enemy, only broken suits, vitrified carapaces, spilled organs that steamed in the cold air. Whatever species had sent these things had underestimated the weaponized breath of a planet. Early evening brought a melancholic silence. The sky cleared, revealing a sunset filtered through diamond dust. AM satellites idled in standby. Their fuel reserves were gutted, thermal controls redlined. We'd burned through half our future farm rain capacity. Governor Atieno summoned us to the subterranean lecture hall being used as Crisis HQ. The room was lit by emergency panels, giving everyone a ghostly pallor. Engineers, medtechs, agronomists, they studied us like we'd returned from deep space. Atieno spoke first. "Your hail strike neutralized 73 enemy craft and all deployed walker units." She looked down at her slate. "No alien signals remain operational within 200 kilometers. A muffled cheer rippled through the hall. Hands clasped shoulders. Someone sobbed. "But," she continued, "our crop loss is catastrophic. Topsoil shear up to 1 meter across the Delta Plain. Irrigation infrastructure, 90% destroyed. Atmospheric particulates will suppress sunlight for weeks. Our food projections have dropped below sustainability." I felt the weight of every shattered soybean sprout. "We're not done yet," I said, voice carrying across the hush. "AOAM can still steer moisture. We'll seed low-impact snowfalls to layer protective meltwater, reduce erosion. We'll fast-track hydroponics, double algae protein modules. We saved the people. Now we save the colony." Atieno studied me, then Severin. Finally, she nodded. "You two are promoted to joint coordinators of recovery operations. Whatever you need, ask." That night I walked outside alone, past the cavern entrance and up a ridge freshly coated in marble-sized grapple. The air smelled like crushed ice and ionization. Stars glimmered between shredded cloud veils, and Pomona 4's petite moon rose, serene as always. Below, the plains sparkled with crystalline debris lit by emergency beacons. The hail field looked almost pretty in the moonlight, like a chain of glacial lakes frozen mid-splash. Somewhere under that glitter lay the bodies of an enemy we had never named and might never see again. I sank to my knees, gloved fingers sifting shards that chimed together like glass. I thought about the terraformers who'd first sold humanity on this planet's potential, promising gentle breezes and rolling grain. I thought about the seeds we would plant anew next cycle, in soil scarred but still fertile. And I thought about the line we'd crossed, turning weather, our nurturing craft, into planetary artillery. A soft crunch of boots behind me. Severin arrived carrying a flask. He sat beside me, passed it over. The liquid was mulberry cordial from the dome orchards, tasting of smoke now. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "Listening to the ice settle," I said. He nodded, gazing across the wreckage. "I keep replaying the moment the hail hit. Part of me felt exhilaration. Part of me too," I admitted. "And that scares me more than the aliens." He took a sip, grimaced. "Lines we never knew we had until we crossed them." I let the silence speak for a while. Night insects, species we'd engineered from Terran genomes, began their timid chorus, proof that life still dared to sing amidst devastation. Finally, I said, "We did what was needed. We used the tools at hand. Tomorrow we start rebuilding. We remember why those satellites went up in the first place." "Rain, not ruin," he murmured. "Right." I stood, brushing ice dust from my coat. "Come on, Sev. We've got a planet to heal." We walked down the ridge toward camp lights, our shadows long and slender under the alien stars, the hush of cooling hail at our backs, and the whisper of yet unwritten seasons in the air.